So yeah, my camera had too much data on it. Sorry, my phone had too many videos on it, so it closed the video. So this is a part 2 of the same video. So I was talking about the Tesla trade. Tesla was pretty good trade. So basically, I made around $450 from the Tesla trade in the last 2 or 3 days, and yeah, so my account is back to like 96,000 something. So I'm kind of making a good progress back towards profits. After, yeah, I have to reach 100,000 and then I can make it into a then I have to go to 10,000 more than 100,000. So I need to get out from the red zone first, then I can start thinking about the green zone, and then once I go into the green zone I have to think about 10,000. Yeah, so I have finished yeah my new renting issue. So I just wanted to come and talk about the two companies that I had applied for. So what I realized was that the first company, which is the one in Reading, the gambling company, it has a debt, a huge debt. Almost 80% of it is actually debt. So although they are making, I think their net assets are just around, if you take away all the liabilities and assets, their net assets are only about 1.5 million, and there are 800 employees, and to have just 1.5 million as actual assets like cash or things like that, it's pretty bad for a company. And the debts are themselves, they have been running on debts for probably many years. So 80% of the debts itself are like 80%. So it's a bit worrying kind of situation, but maybe that's just normal for startups. It was started in 2015, and usually these gambling companies, yeah, it's pretty probably a bit like there's nobody funding you or things like that. So you have to take the loans and then start making money, and so their debt is also reducing year by year. But at the same time, yeah, their revenue is pretty good. I think they're making a lot of revenue, but at the same time, their debts, they also have to, I think they probably will take almost the next 10 to 15 years to finish off all their debts. So that looks like a pretty shitty company to me, but as long as I'm getting my monthly salary, then I don't have to worry about those things. So that's one thing about the gambling company, casino company. And also I googled on the online about how is it to work for a gambling company, and they said that the software engineers are usually the safest in a company like this, because they are the smartest people, so they will be kept at the top and they will be the last to be fired. So in that sense, I believe that this job is much safer for me than the Oxford job, because in the Oxford job, everyone is a software engineer, and it's probably there's like 100 software engineers. The Oxford job also has the problem of basically that it's not a real company. It's actually being funded. It's seed funding. So basically, they've had like maybe 2 or 3 rounds of funding, and I think the latest one was 6 million or something. And their net capital, I think the net assets, like the whole company, is probably worth around around 17 million. I think the whole company is worth 17 million. And the net assets, I don't know much about the other things like revenue and things like that. I don't think I thought the revenue was 17 million, but it's bullshit. Actually, someone had written a bullshit article on the internet where they said they made a revenue of 117 million in 2024, but actually the whole company's net worth is 17 million. You can't have a company which makes 17 million in 1 year and not even hear anything about it on the stock market or in the. There can be no private company in this world who will make 17 million a year and nobody notices it. So basically, what the reality is that the Oxford company is just a company which is run by someone maybe related to the Oxford University or someone who knows much about digital data preservation. So I know the CEO is. I checked up the CEO. The CEO is called Jonathan Tilbury, and he's an expert on preserving data and things like that. So he's got some kind of specialty knowledge about data preservation and digital assets and management and things like that. So he has this huge world where everyone knows everything about digital preservation. So it's just like my previous company CEO from this company. So the company that I'm actually my previous company was from this this one. So the shirt I'm wearing is actually like the official shirt that we were wearing in the company when we were going to work. And so basically the CEO is basically a nerd who knows a lot of things about digital art preservation or maybe digital data preservation. And probably like there's around, I checked also their GitHub repositories. They have like 5 or 6, just about 6 or 7 repositories, like small repositories where it's something like a Python API backend or something like that. So Preservica, this and that. So basically I also saw something like a product on the Azure Marketplace and Microsoft Marketplace about Preservica, download Preservica app or something like that. So that's a bit interesting, but overall the company, I don't really think it's really very looking good at the moment, because I know they have some big clients at the moment, maybe one in America, some museums in America, some museum in London, and some banks. Yeah, the banks are the biggest clients. So if the banks are actually making a lot of money, then it means that so the banks are actually the main source of their income. So I think they're probably making a lot of money from the banks, because these banks are actually preserving their data. Need their data to be preserved, and their file types should be capable of being read in the future, maybe 20 years from now or something like that. But overall I found that this company is, since it's like still in the funding stage, it's not actually making money at all. Like it's not completely free. It's like venture capital state at the moment. It's still in the venture capital situation. So all the venture capitalists are actually, all the angel investors are probably watching it like vultures, and everyone is probably trying to pick on the software engineers, and they are looking at probably if I probably join the company, they'll start looking at me like I'm some kind of a piece of shit, because obviously the Indians are the easiest scapegoats in this kind of situation, where a company is full of lazy people, and they need some scapegoats to be brought in so that they can be sacrificed in front of the altar of the venture capitalists, and then show that they saved some money by dropping some useless people. So the thing is that if I join the company, I'm not going to change the world. I'm not like an expert in software. I'm not a big guy I'm just going there because they hired me, and if they fire me, then I'm just going to be fired. So I'm just like a very innocent lamb of God who just following the shepherd. That's it. I don't have any personal ideas to actually revolutionize the company or make the company into a multi-million revenue getting company overnight. So that's my 2 cents about so the other thing about the company in Reading is that I believe that I have a better chance because there is some lady in the in the Reading company who is actually has the same last name as me. So there might be a good chance that I can have some positive support from her. And yeah, she's also an Indian lady, and she's married and all those things. So she has the same family name as me. So I think that maybe she was also probably responsible for me getting into the job. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe she saw my name on the CV, and she also was quite interested. She was at the interview as well. So she has the same last name as me. So in a way, it's just probably some kind of because in India you have the caste system and we have the different castes, and we are the same caste. So obviously we have the same family name. So genetically we are kind of closely related. In India, the people who have the same surname are kind of like if you are from the same caste and you have the same surname, then you are actually the same you come from the same gene, like about maybe a few thousand, maybe 1,000 years ago you come from the same person. So you are genetically related. So you should technically not be also marrying that person who has the same name as your last name. So that's something they already know in India, that if you're from the same caste and same last name, then you don't marry the same person who comes from the same, like the last name. So yeah, so it's possible that she will be supporting me, and she's also been supporting me even in the job interview levels. And she was there I saw in the Zoom call, she was sitting there and asking me a couple of questions about what do people like about you, and what do people not like about you, what do they say if people don't like you? I mean, something like that. So some old rubbish interview question from India. Usually, what do people think about you? It's more like a dating question or something. So yeah, I'm quite happy that that's the main reason I would actually choose to work for this company, because the one in Oxford, they are mostly I think it's only 100 people, so it's very easy to get into I don't know, I've never worked in a company which has 800 people like in the UK. I've worked in a company which has a lot of people. In India, when I was working for a call center, I was doing email support for BT Internet. So I have actually, so yeah, I have worked for a big company when I was in India, but that was a tech support job, and I had no fear of losing a job in a tech support company, because they want to keep like really talented people in really shitty situations, which makes them really happy. So yeah, I have so basically, what else do I have to say? So the job in Reading I am very much interested in, because I do feel like I have less chance of getting ganged up on, because there's plenty of women as well. So there might be less chance of getting ganged up on, because usually what I've seen in the current company is that when you have a couple of guys, they start to pick up on the weakest one and start bullying more. So yeah, I have this weakness at the workplace where I get bullied a lot. So after that, yeah, so based on my actual So let me think again. So based on my astrological sign, I have Mars retrograde, which means I tend to get bullied a lot. No, it's not based on the Mars retrograde. Yeah, I think it's probably the Mars retrograde. Yeah, usually I have this tendency to get bullied a lot at work, and the boss at work usually gets tired of me getting bullied because I'm not standing up to the person or something like that. So um, that's maybe an issue because you don't have a backbone. It's not like I don't have a backbone, but maybe they see that I'm getting bullied continuously and they're just tired of it, and that's one of the problems. And even in a remote workplace, I could not really deal with bullies. So even in the remote setting, you had people were bullying me a lot, even in the remote setting. So I don't know how to deal with that. But I'm hoping that in this case I will be slightly safer. It's 3 day work 3 days work and 2 days at home per week. So I'll be going to work 3 days and staying at home for 2 days. So, and obviously I'll have some guy who will be my boss, who will be irritating me a lot. Maybe not in the first 6 months, but towards the end. I also read on the internet that if people start to micromanage you, then if your boss starts to micromanage you, then it means that you are actually being pushed out of the job. So the simple fact that you are being micromanaged means that you are somehow getting pushed out of the job. So I don't know when you can say that you are being micromanaged, because at what point are you being micromanaged? I don't understand. So maybe when the boss says, even boss starts to interfere even in the smallest problems, smallest issues that you have, and that's what I would say is micromanaged. Yeah, for example, there was a situation in one of my jobs when my boss used to say, because when I was writing down my research notes in my notebook, in my lab notebook, I was actually writing down it more as a flow chart. So I was making it more like arrows. I would write the first step, then I'd draw arrows and write the next step. So for me, it was easier to understand through this flow chart. But this guy actually started making fun of me, and not making fun of me. He actually scolded me for doing that. Like, how can I? He said, it's basically my lab notebook, and he is actually telling me that I cannot write my lab notebook like I want. So that's like a micromanage. That's not just micromanagement, that's actually bullying, because I'm an adult, I have a PhD, I'm 32 years old when I'm in his lab, and he's actually telling me that I can't write my lab notebook like I want. For me, it's easier to understand the steps when I'm writing down as arrows, and this guy was actually, yeah, he was bullying me. Definitely, that's that simple thing. And even after I gave a talk, he would say, "Oh, there were not many people who came to the talk, and your talk was pretty shitty, isn't it?" He was asking me that question. Not shitty, but he said there were not many people at the talk. There were actually many people at the talk, and that's why he was jealous. And some people said my talk was pretty good. So, and he was also responsible for. So, once I finished my work, in this university. I went to Cambridge University, and I had completed my work there, and I submitted my work, and also I had done most of the work in that paper. I had basically my name was in the beginning at the my first author. It was my first author paper. I'm the first author of that paper because it's my hard work of 3 years. And he actually put some guy who had just joined maybe after me, and he put them. He put his he gave him some small work to do, and he put his name in that, and actually made him the first author. Not just the first. Yeah, he first author. He made him co-author with my name. So basically now he is actually, yeah. So after that I went to Cambridge, and I actually got very angry at that, and I said, how can you make him? I couldn't say much actually. I just wrote him an angry email, but he didn't really. Not really angry, but just a very short and short, abrupt email saying, how can you make him the first author or something. So, and interestingly, the guy was actually kicked out of the university after I left after 2 years. He actually sued the university for not taking him as a assistant. He was actually assistant professor at the time, or research fellow. I don't know. Yeah, he was a research fellow, or yes, maybe he had some funding to take me as a research associate. But he could not get a promotion, and he could not get like full-time professor position, like assistant professor, and he was kicked out of the university. Obviously, again, bullying because of racism. Maybe there's a lot of racism in the West Midlands, and in Warwick University, there's definitely a lot of it. And so he got kicked out of it, and he sued the university, and I think he even lost the case. You can sue the university, but you might actually lose the case. So he left the country and he went to Singapore, and now he's a professor in Singapore. Not professor, but something like that, principal investigator. So that was the time when I felt like, okay, this is an example of micromanagement. Like when I write something in the notebook and he tells me you can't write it like that. It's my notebook. I'm writing it with pencils and pens, and it's my personal thing. I understand things better when I write that way. And this guy was actually, in fact, some people don't even write their lab notebooks. I was even so diligent and hardworking to even write my lab notebook. I used to write it every time, like for many years. So interestingly, this guy got, he was my boss, and he got kicked out. So what else? What other example can I give of micromanagement? So how do you deal with micromanagement? Hopefully I will not be getting any micromanagement in the future, but it's an interesting thing. If you are being micromanaged, it's a time for you to leave the job, according to the article which I read on the internet. So yes, it was time for me to leave the job when that happened. But I've been micromanaged for like almost an entire decade. I didn't realize that I have to leave the job. I just thought, okay, fine. I didn't think that they wanted me to leave the job. That's the problem I have. Maybe I have Asperger's disease, Asperger's syndrome, or something like that, where I don't understand social cues. Yeah, that's one of the main reasons. I think being self-employed is like the most important thing I should do in my life, because what I'm doing right now is that I am just buying time, more and more time to have another job, and I just keep getting a new job. And basically what happens is that Yeah, so I saw. So basically, what I need to do now is to. I think I'll have to write a letter to the Oxford, no, an email to the Oxford person to stop wasting time and just I'm not interested, and because I don't want to get into any legal issues, because the guy probably would say you didn't tell us, because I think if I tell him right now it's completely fine because it's not been more than 5 days since I signed the contract. But there's no real law like that. In the UK you can actually cancel the contract anytime before your contract starts. So that's my news for today. Basically what I've realized is that both these jobs are shit. One is a very high debt company with a lot of with high debt company with I think there's plenty of gambling companies, and there's nothing wrong with having a gambling company, working for a gambling company. There's nothing wrong with it. It's an interesting industry, and you just creating new games, and creating games itself is very interesting. And I would probably like to work for a gaming industry in the future. And the most interesting part is that now I can use Java, in which I work most of the time, for learning gaming. Gaming is mostly done in C++ or because C++ is extremely performant, high performance. It's like C++ is like the Ferrari or the Lamborghini of the software languages. It runs very fast, whereas Java is like an old. It's like a truck. It's mostly used for big industrial level applications which need more reliability, trustworthiness, and that's why the fintech industry uses Java a lot. So crypto is also done by this company. So it's fintech, crypto, all kinds of stuff like that. So I would be very happy to work for this company. Although for me, gambling and crypto themselves are two really shitty areas of shady areas, but I don't care. As long as gambling itself is a very unethical industry, because the main reason is that the main argument against gambling industry as unethical is because today I read on Quora that when you actually see a guy who is winning a lot of money and you're making him lose, if someone is actually winning a lot of money, the gambling company will close his account and ban him. So simple as that. So it's the same for even these trading prop firms and things like that. If you make a lot of money, you will be banned, and so you just have to make quick money and then get into another accounts, get more accounts, and things like that. So that's also the same thing with prop firm trading and gambling. If they see a winner who is actually making a lot of money, he will be banned, and a lot of people will be watching him, and he will not be able to continue with his gambling stuff. So that's similar to what society is like. If you got a rich guy who's making a lot of money, plenty of people will try to destroy him. So it's the same for gambling as well. So that's the news for today. What else? So I think I made my decision. I'll probably go for the gambling company, because although the idea of a remote job is really fantastic for me, I cannot deal with people having this funding rounds and seed funding and venture capital based companies which are burning a lot of money, and then the venture on one fine day, if the angel investor says drop some people, and then I'll be in the list of people to be dropped. So in that sense, I have a much safer option with the gambling industry, because apparently the software developers are the last ones to go. So the first ones, I don't know who are the first ones to be dropped in a gambling company. Maybe the cleaners, who knows. Anyway, so that's the news for me for today. And why did I not go to the gym today? It's because I give 1 day break between so the first 2 days would be leg and shoulders, so my legs would be hurting really bad, and my shoulders, I did shoulders yesterday, and my body gets really kind of beaten. It feels like I've been beaten up or something after 2 days of heavy workout. So you need to give 1 day break, and then on the next day I do the rest of the 3, which is back, then chest, and then arms. And even to do the last 3 is also a bit of a pain in the ass, because when you do back exercises, the sheer load, the heaviness of the back workout is pretty difficult on your body. Like your body feels the pain of it for the whole day, not only the whole day, the next 2 days. So even doing the 3 days continuously is also not so easy. I think that's what I realize now. So yeah, that's how I split my week into 2 days break, 3 days. So that will be 6 days, and maybe I can give one more break between back and chest. So that will be exactly 7 days, which is too much, because I have to give 1 day break between arms and the next week's legs. So so that's my 2 cents on my gym workout routine, and that's it. I will end my talk now. I've got a lot of things to do. I have to go back to the shop and start buying my milk and go home now. So I'll end my talk now. So I made a decision. It's probably going to be the gambling company.